guys, it's Danica. Welcome back. Today we'll be switching it up and starting part 1 of the Prison Building with Danica series. Let's get started. For this particular prison, I will be working with female prisoners because I want to give myself a challenge, and male prisoners don't have as many challenges as female prisoners do. The warden I will be using is the pacifier because he keeps the prisoners calm, which is kind of the goal of my prison this time. My guard dog is the dire wolf because he keeps people in and makes sure that they don't escape. I will also be having criminally insane inmates, dynamic reputations, prison transfers, weather and temperature, unlimited funds, bureaucracy researched, acid rain, super guards, all reputations revealed, fast deliveries, and last but not least, permanent day. Because if we have permanent day, we don't need any lights in our prison, which is perfectly fine. Now that we know what we're working with, it's time to play. As you can see, we have a completely empty space to work with some delivery and some garbage area, some workers, and supplies. What you may notice is that it says that we only have $30,000, but really, we have unlimited funds. Our daily cash flow right now is obviously not the greatest, but that is what you start with, and we're on day 1. Woohoo! First things first, you may notice that currently is that we're going to take in all prisoners. That is not the case. I set it to fill capacity because that way I don't have an overcrowded prison, which is not the goal of this game. So first I will build a reception area right by the deliveries and garbage because that just makes the most sense. As you can see, I built it to be very big because typically I have run into problems where I have not built a big enough reception. And oh crap, I just realized that the game was entirely paused until 2 seconds ago. Come on, workers, you can do it. Yay! Now people can get into our prison. Let's see. Probably the safest place is to put... Oh, actually, nope. Before that, we need a checkpoint station. And now I understand why I built this to be bigger than I would originally have it. Well, now that means I need to build a bigger reception. Oh my. The other reason I set my prisoner intake to fill to capacity is because when me and my dad have played Prison Architect, we have accidentally had prisoners come in and then die because we didn't have the necessary services to run our prison. One time we had prisoners come in and we didn't have a kitchen ready. And if any of you know anything about Prison Architect, you know that kitchen is one of the first things you should build. So the fact that we did not have a kitchen ready was kind of bad. And meant that our prisoners slowly starved to death, which is bad. Because as I can show you in reports later, once we actually have an accountant, you actually get fined for deaths. Now we can place the desk because we actually have space for one. And what do we need? Oh, table. Yes, we give me a table. Tables are always essential. Now, where is the jail door? There we go. Also, what I typically do is I build a holding cell right next to reception, because then every time people go through reception, they have to get their belongings checked so that they don't have drugs or weapons to try and kill each other, because that's bad. We all know that's bad. Building that. Okay. Also, what I typically do is I move deliveries so that it's in a little bit more of a convenient location, as opposed to right in front of where we want them to work and build stuff. I also typically move the garbage because that's just like given. And I also typically put out an exports area because I'll need it eventually. Oh, there. Now I have a warden, but I need an office for the warden, which I do not have, which is why I'm so glad that there are no prisoners here yet. And I will put that there, and that there, and I'll put that there. Oh. A small bench. It's always hard to decide where to put the most essential things in a holding cell. Because if you put it in the wrong spot, then they can't reach it. It's also always hard to decide what items to put in a holding cell, because you don't want them to have too much. But if they don't have enough, they will die. And now I'm realizing that my theory about lights and daytime is not applicable. Oh my. Why did I set it to always day? Every time I do this, and I think, maybe just this time it will work. Just this time it'll work. And it never seems to work. I wonder why. I also put a storage area because I don't want all these bricks and stuff in the way of my builders. Oh boy. And I just realized that I don't have a station for all my utilities, which means that my prisoners do not have power or water right now, which is, how do I put this? Very bad. Means they can't eat. They can't really do anything. And I just did that. Not what I was trying to do. Oh, there. That's what I want. Oh my. To anyone who's ever played Prison Architect before, please feel free to comment down below how many times you've struggled to build your first prison. This is actually not my first prison. It feels like my first prison because my first prison sucked, but it's okay. It's tolerable. It runs. Yay! My prison has power. Woohoo! Alright, there we go. Yay, has water. Now. There we go. Okay. Oh, why did it build in concrete? Oh, now I have to rebuild these walls. If you haven't been paying attention for the last little while, you'll notice that I only have $500 left according to the bank balance, which typically would mean I'm very close to being in debt, but right now that's not the case, thankfully. There, guards, get money from them anyways. Oh, what else do I need? Oh yeah, I was gonna get a chief. And a foreman. The reason why I hired those as my first people is because the warden, it's necessary to have the warden run your prison. The chief, he makes sure that your guards eventually have tasers. And the foreman makes sure that your prisoners get something out of their time in prison. Now I have to try and figure out the rest of the prison, which will be for the next episode of Prison Building with Danica. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Is anyone else noticing that I kind of talk like a robot? Okay, good to know.